Welcome to another edition of Inside Career Technical Education. I am one of your hosts of this program, Ann Baldwin, and so glad to be joined once again by Jim Bologa, President and CEO of PorterChester Institute and YTI Career Institute. Jim, we've got a great show lined up. I'm so excited for our guest today. And since you two have a long-lasting relationship, I'll let you do the honors of introducing Chris Shepley.
Well, thanks, Ann. It's always great to be here with you. And we are. I'm very excited to talk a lot about what Chris does. Chris Shepley is our corporate director of career services, and he oversees all three states. So we operate PorterChester Institute in Connecticut and Massachusetts, and then YTI Career Institute in Pennsylvania. And Chris oversees all of that. And his focus is helping our students graduate with a job in their career, and it's pretty exciting to see the students go through that process. And I'm excited to welcome him here to our podcast today. So welcome, Chris.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So, Chris, let's start with, this is a vital role, because what good is technical training if there's no jobs at the end of the rainbow, right? And we know that these are essential workers, that these are in very high demand. So talk a little bit about what is career services and why is it such an important component of what PCI and YTI has to offer?
Yeah, certainly we view our role as essential in the process. And, career services, most traditionally people view us as the conduit between our graduates and employers. And that's really, one of our primary tasks is to reach out and develop great relationships with employers in our local markets so that they understand all the unique training capabilities that are going on campuses every day. What people may not be aware of is the other side of career services, which is actually working closely with our students on a daily basis to help them prepare for their career journey. Most times folks think technical education, I don't need the soft skills, but the reality is our employers expect our students to have a strong background, soft skills, so that they can have great interactions with their customers and continue to grow their business. So we're working kind of on two fronts. One is to build the great relationships with employers, and then two is making sure that our students are prepared so when they graduate they have the technical skills to be successful, but also those soft skills that employers so value today.
Yeah, no, that's great, Chris. If you look at our mission statement, it's clearly right in there, in terms of committed students pursuing, the technical and professional skills essential for their career through industry modeled education and training. Chris, talk a little bit more about maybe some of the specifics. We've really pivoted over the years where, you sort of alluded to that career services was sort of like an end of the process type event where we've now moved it up really right as soon as a student joins us. Maybe talk a little bit about some of the services that we offer to our students, right out of the get-go.
Sure. Traditionally career services was kind of a, last month of school, you'd meet your career service advisor and you're off and running. But we realized, probably 5 or 6 years ago that we really wanted that relationship to start at the beginning of the student's journey. Oftentimes we'll actually interact before their first day of school, whether it's a brief video message when they enroll in their program to introduce their career service advisor to them. We've found that the key to our student success ultimately is great relationships with their career service advisor. So they start to build that trust that is so important along the journey. We interact with them officially in day 2 of their start. We do an intro seminar where we talk a little bit about career services and the types of things that we can do to help them. And again, students have access to our career service advisors from day 1. And it's simple things like, just developing a great professional-looking resume, clean, no typos, getting their skill set and message out there. We talk a lot about searching for a job in the local market and what that looks like. And we really try to get our students to start actively searching. So start networking, whether it's our trades folks. If you pull into a Dunkin' Donuts, you're going to see probably 1 or 2 trades vans early in the morning. So we want to teach our students how to develop a 30-second elevator pitch so they can go up and start interacting with these employers, because trust me, the employers are looking for talent out there. And then we start to transition into, you start having these conversations with employers, the next step is interviews. So we talk about interview preparation, how to get ready for an interview, what types of questions you might commonly see. And then we start doing some mock interview activities where students are engaging, with other students, but also using technology where they can, the computer can ask them a question and they record their answer and they see it in real time played back. So they can start to see some of those, nuances, whether it's nonverbal or verbal communication. And then I think, the other thing we focus on is once they're employed, we try to really focus on what it takes to grow that career, because we're not here to find them a job. We're here to move them into a career, which is a long-term solution. So we talk about, advancement and things that you need to do to really grow and make that a long-term career opportunity.
And we're speaking with Chris Shepley, who's the Corporate Director of Career Services for both YTI and PCI. Chris, I've had the opportunity to attend many of your career fairs and actually get to know some of the potential employers, here in Connecticut, from Foxwoods, Mohegan Sun, the utility companies, the hospitals, Hartford Healthcare. I mean, just huge employers in this area, the car dealerships. And the comments as I walked around and talked to some of these folks that attended the career fair was just, they can't believe how well prepared and how professional your tradespeople come across at these career fairs. But now we've got COVID, so no more career fairs for now. So how are you doing that, Jim? How are you and Chris and your entire company accommodating with COVID, that face-to-face with potential employers?
Yeah, well, one of the things I just wanted to mention was I really enjoyed doing mock interviews with our students.
Yeah.
And so that was back in the days where, we could be, in a physical location. And as you alluded to, I mean, the career fairs too, we would have 2 career fairs on campus. They were pretty exciting. We had anywhere from, on a smaller career fair, 30 or 40 employers, as you witnessed up to, in some cases we've had, north of, 60 or 70. So, and I'll let Chris talk a little more in detail about, how we're doing this. But again, I think, everything has sort of gone to the Zoom world, if you will. But I'll let Chris talk a little bit more about that. But, again, that's, in terms of our plans, we are going to continue this, and we are doing this with everything that we're doing. We're using Zoom as a vehicle to basically bring people together, to the best of our ability right now, given the fact that we can't have people back on campuses, in big quantities.
Right.
So, Chris, maybe you could just talk briefly about what we have coming up, for our students, in the second half of this year, if you will.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it's, COVID has been, interesting. It's provided some, unique opportunities. We prefer not to call them challenges. It's opportunities to develop and use technology differently. So, when you pivot with career fairs, and that was one of the things our employers loved was, coming to the campus and interacting with our students. And it was a great day for the students as well because, they get to see the end goal of their journey, right in front of them. So as a student, when you enroll in a program and you're seeing, 70 employers on site looking to hire in the field that you're interested in, that's quite rewarding. So, how can we transition that interaction to a virtual environment? And it's to Jim's point, it's relatively simple in the sense that you move to a virtual career fair setting, and you organize Zoom calls where you have your employers on Zoom, and you can have students kind of migrate instead of to the booth. They can migrate to a specific Zoom call if it's an employer they're interested in, and they can go through and have that same conversation in a virtual environment that they would have face to face. So that's quite popular right now, and that's something that we would like to do as we move into the end of the year. And then we'll see kind of where COVID is as we look into the next calendar year and whether we'll have to continue to do a virtual career fair. But our hope is at some point in time that we'll be able to have the employers back on campus and do some of those larger events.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and I think I think everybody does love the excitement of packing in employers and students, and what's been awesome in my experience is is that, no matter where you're at, if you're just starting school or if you're halfway through, or obviously if you're, near the end, all the students are at the career fair. So it's great. Chris talked about networking and developing your elevator pitch and getting your resume up and running. So it's really, that part of it, I think everybody is going to miss. But hopefully at some point we'll be able to get back on the campus. We're going to have to do these, obviously in the context of social distancing and everything else. So, I think once we get through maybe the fall and the winter, we'll reevaluate whether or not we can do some in-person ones. They'll have to be much more, they'll be much smaller. But Chris, talk just quickly. About, and this is sort of like, in less than 30 seconds, just rattle off some of the employers that we've been working with, whether it's in, Massachusetts, Connecticut, or Pennsylvania.
Yeah, I mean, we really try to work with a diverse group of companies. So, in Massachusetts, on the electrical side, we work a lot with Florence Electric, Rivers Electric, Interstate Electric, Griffin Electric. So, not surprisingly, all the big names, we're working with, but we also work with the smaller, kind of 1 and 2, 3-person shops, as well. Anna mentioned in Connecticut, we work with Foxwoods, Mohegan Sun with our low voltage electrical tech program. They actually work on maintenance of their slot machines and equipment like that.
Electric boat?
Electric boat certainly is another one. Pratt and Whitney, in the local market. We've been partnering with them. So when you look at a list of employers, again, on the exec side, Santa Energy, Encon, all of the big names that you would want to see are there, and we really value those relationships. But we also, again, are not afraid to work with a company that's got 2 or 3 techs and is family-owned business. Each of our students has a unique profile. And while some might be a great fit for an electric boat, others are going to be a better fit for a much smaller shop and experience. So we're fortunate. I mean, we really work hard to build those employer relationships and sustain those. And that's really our bread and butter at the end of the day, is making sure our students have multiple opportunities to evaluate different types of employers.
Yeah, no, that was great, Chris. Thanks for that information. One of the things that I've often been asked, by our graduates, our alumni, is, what happens if a graduate loses their job or needs some additional help finding a job once they're really out of that first job? And, maybe you can talk a little bit about, how, we continue to, work with our graduates and encourage them to call us back if they, if they're having issues, let's just say 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 years out of school. And maybe you can talk a little bit about that, and then how, we'll talk about that first, and then I do want to wrap up just talking about how some of our graduates are going into employers, companies, and the employers are actually reaching out to us and asking us to provide some very specific training to the remainder of their employees. So first, talk a little bit about alumni, former graduates, sure, and then we'll tackle the employer piece at the end.
Yeah, no, that's great. I'm glad you asked. I mean, alumni relationships are interesting. We talk to students, all the time. So our goal is to get our graduates employed, prior to their grad date. And we've seen more and more employers willing to work with us because, again, when you're fighting for top talent, you want to get them early. But we tell students, just because you take a job and maybe it doesn't work out the way you want, our phones don't shut off. We still want you to call us back and engage with us. If you have different challenges, we're here to help. So, that process doesn't go away. And students always have the ability to work with their career service advisor, even after graduation. So as we started to look at, traditional colleges, they have alumni networks, and we started to talk internally, well, we really want to develop our alumni network and make it be something that our students are proud of. Graduating from Porter and Chester at YTI Institute is tough. You have to be dedicated, you have to work extremely hard and be goal-oriented, and so we want to celebrate that success. So we actually recently just hired someone who's going to come in and kind of manage our alumni relationships, if you will, and our goal is to continue to maintain long-term relationships that will benefit our students and our employers. So that's kind of our focus as we look to kind of build this out and make it somewhat more formal, so that students who graduate from PCI and YTI will have that same sense of pride as someone who might graduate from Yale or Harvard. So that's our goal, and we're really excited, and I think we're starting to see, some response from our alumni saying, that's great to hear from you. Here's where I am in my career, and here's what I might be looking for as a next move. And so we're excited about that.
Just to wrap it up, talk a little bit about, some of our graduates out in the workplace and then their employers reaching out to us, asking us to do specific company-related training based on what they've experienced, because of our graduates and their contribution to their organizations.
Yeah, so again, one of the things that we started to see as we had more and more successful, employment outcomes, employers would come back to us and say, hey, listen, we just hired, John, and he's doing a great job. Is there any way that Porter and Chester can train some of our current employees? We like the skills and the skill set that individual has. And for a long time, we were kind of hesitant to dive into that. But again, we recently hired someone internally that their job is going to be to work specifically with employers to kind of tease out some of their needs for training. So a couple examples, real time for us. Pratt and Whitney in East Hartford, they have been looking for some assistance with electrical, training. And so they reached out to us, and we went over toward the facility, extremely, impressive facility. And while walking through the plant, I had at least 4 PCI alumni come up and introduce themselves as we were walking through. I graduated from Porter and Chester, 15 years ago, 10 years ago. One gentleman is actually one of 2 people in the whole U.S. that can run this particular piece of equipment and maintain it. Extremely impressive credentials. Most recently, we just partnered with a company called Siptex, and they're a manufacturing company. They hired 2 graduates from our CAD program. Extremely impressed with their background and knowledge, so they reached out and said, hey, can you come in and work with our current staff and get them up to speed? So we set up a very specific curriculum for them online, and it focuses on 3D printing for injection moldings. But for their business, if they can do that a little bit better, it's going to be a huge payoff to them. So those are some of the most recent examples. And again, we're reaching out to employers, and we're getting more and more positive feedback. So we expect to have additional offerings, come down the line here very shortly. So we're super excited about that.
Great. And if any potential alumni or folks who need to reach back out to PCI or YTI, the best way to do that would go to the website, right? PorterChester.edu or YTI.edu, and you can always reach the right person on those websites. Chris Shepley, you're doing amazing things. It's great to see that everything's evolving, in these difficult times, but there are jobs out there, essential jobs, and your graduates are in a good position, it sounds like. So Chris Shepley, Corporate Director, Career Services, thank you again for being on the program. This was interesting, Jim, wasn't it?
It was great. We could to all our podcast listeners, we know this is a little bit longer than normal, but we could go for many, many hours talking about employment.
Worth every second. And with that, let's just thank everyone for listening to this edition of Inside Career Technical Education.